Welcome to Work This Way, a labor and employment podcast. I'm Tina Emerson, Chief Marketing Officer at Maynard Nexsen, and I'm joined here today with my Maynard Nexsen colleague, Faye Edwards. Good to see you, Faye.
Good to see you.
Well, we are here at the Greenville SHRM Conference. It's the Society of Human Resources Management. It's the HR and Leadership Conference where local HR and employment professionals are gathered for insightful sessions with expert speakers. So joining us today is Rhiannon Poore. She is the founder and CEO of Forge Search, a professional recruitment firm that helps companies and candidates succeed through both talent search and training for companies to develop recruiting processes. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, we're so glad you're here. Can you start us off by telling us about your background and about Forge Search?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So almost 20 years in recruiting, so I feel like the more gray hairs every day, but really have spent the entirety of my career focused on how do you connect the right people with the right seat on the bus, and how do you make a difference in companies from a recruiting perspective. So started out my career in a search firm, and then I moved in-house with a large public accounting firm and led recruiting there, and then felt like there was an opportunity to do something crazy, jump off the deep end and go out on my own, and did that with Forge in 2021. So we've grown since then and focused a lot on those professional white-collar recruiting roles throughout really the Carolinas, but across the nation as our clients need it.
That's awesome. And your team specializes in placing talent at the mid to senior level in industries of accounting and finance, HR, and marketing. How has placing talent in these industries changed over the last 5 years?
It's so interesting. We were talking actually about that in one of the sessions this morning. I think it's fascinating. I think we've all seen the talent market, the labor market has dramatically shifted over the past really 5 to 10 years. And I don't think it's going back. And I think we always said, oh, we're going to wait till after COVID, after COVID, it's going to get better. It's going to change. But really everything has, I think if you look at the demographics of the labor market, we still have a workforce rate that is, we have more jobs than there are people available, right? So it's still a low workforce percentage. And I think we see that in the market, and we see that with candidates that are applying for jobs, not as many as there used to be, and especially those highly technical roles like accounting and finance, like legal, right? It's harder to find those people who are that exact right fit for what we need somebody to be from a technical perspective. But I don't know that that's going to change anytime soon. I think the demographics have just permanently shifted in a way that I think a lot of people are, not really knowing what to do with for right now.
And one of the things that you concentrate on at Forge, which is interesting and kind of unlike your peers out there, is that you help companies with their internal recruiting processes. What are some of the things you see companies struggling with in that area, and how do they keep from those pitfalls in that flow of information that they get from people applying for jobs, looking for people? How do you help them through that?
It's so interesting because even with the rise of AI, I think we're seeing a lot of challenges with our clients where they may be getting flooded with fake resumes, right? I mean, I was talking to a client this morning who they had a posting up and they had, hundreds of resumes that were clearly submitted by a bot. And so this is a data analyst role. And so they had, somebody wrote a bot to apply to all of these jobs. I think it was 1,000 applicants in 24 hours, which is just not sustainable for anybody to go through. So I think what we see and what we're really passionate about is how do we help companies, you can teach a person to fish, right? Or you can find the fish for them type of thing. But I think how do we help them streamline their internal processes? How do we help them choose the right applicant tracking system? How do we help them even know how to, we call it the sizzle. What is your sizzle? Why should somebody want this job? Don't just expect the applicants to come to you, but what can you do differently to help really differentiate your company from all of the other companies out there that they might be considering when they're choosing a role. So we do that. And then obviously there's a lot of help with the more technical side of things. Are you writing your job descriptions in a way that is attracting talent? Are you having them advertised on the right websites? Because there are different websites that you should be in for different fields. Are you doing proactive recruiting? Are you going out there and tapping people on the shoulder and really making sure that you're identifying the passive candidates? Right now, it's over 70% of the global workforce that is passive. So that means they're not applying. But those are the people that you want, right? And I think that's where you have an opportunity to really capture the best talent, is if you can go out and tap those people on the shoulder that are a little bit more passive.
And let's talk about the sizzle for a minute. Because I love how you say that. How
You're in
is-
marketing, you get that, right?
I do. But when you are trying to tap into that 70% that
Right.
isn't looking for a job currently,
Right.
how do you sell that sizzle to
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's not choosing between several different companies because they're not even looking? How
Right.
do you create that sizzle for somebody who's not looking for sizzle?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I think what I have found is that a lot of times people may be open, but they don't even have the time to go even consider an opportunity. Like, I mean, I've got 2 elementary age kids, you know, my husband and I both work, we're juggling a million things. Like, even if I were looking for a job, which I'm not, but the last thing I have time to do is scroll LinkedIn or Indeed for jobs. So what I feel like is like, there's this pool of candidates out there who may not even be looking, but they're not happy. So that's who we want to tap, is the people who are a little bit, you know, kind of like, I mean, there's got to be something better out there. And then obviously there's for sure the pool, like you mentioned, that's not looking at all. Those are a lot harder to recruit because they're happy. If you're happy, you know, you're not going to take my call probably, but you might be curious. But like, what about, are we targeting the people who are in the middle, who are not actively applying, but who are a little bit more disgruntled perhaps, or maybe they didn't get the raise they wanted, or maybe they want more hybrid flexibility, or maybe they don't like their boss. So I think those are the people that we have an opportunity to lean into. And the first thing that I say is like, listen to what they're saying. One of the questions I always ask is, what could be better? There's always something that could be better. And then from there, you know, pulling that and seeing if it's a match. And sometimes it's not a match, you know, sometimes it's like, hey, this just doesn't make sense and there's not the right thing. But I think if we listen, you know, then we know where to direct it.
And what else? I kind of want to go more into depth with that, with getting those people to apply and I guess be more active. And you talked about just asking them, what do you want more? What other strategies have you found successful in trying to get those passive employees to actually apply for more competitive employer?
So I think in terms of the first thing I do is obviously listening, like I said, what they're looking for, and then really connecting and not pushing it if it's not a fit, right? I think that's the first thing, is like what I always tell people is like, this is a long-term play. Like, I want to be a consultant and a partner to you in a long-term way and help you figure out what that right next move is. I will tell you, over 50% of the time, you know, the first time you're talking to somebody, that position may not be the right fit, and it probably isn't. But you've built a connection and you've built a relationship, and they, at that point, then they know they can trust you to not just push something down their throat. And then, you know, it's the same guys with you guys when you're giving advice to your clients, right? You're building trust, and it's like you're saying, hey, this is the direction to go in. And we're kind of doing the same thing. We're being consultative and helping them figure that out. I think everybody has a different like life situation that they're trying to, you know, I think in 2025, it's so much about how do the two blend together. You know, we've got family, we might have aging parents, we might have kids, we might have, you know, a commute, all of these things that come together. And I think the more we can look holistically and say, what does a good, you know, work situation look like that enables you to live life in an intentional way? That really, I think it speaks to where people are at today.
That makes sense. You know, recruiting and retaining the top talent is a really key concern.
Yeah.
So what do you tell companies that they should be looking for when searching for the best candidate?
That's a great question. I think the 3 things that I always go back to are hungry, humble, and smart by Pat Lencioni is the one who I did not originate it. But Pat Lencioni talks about humble, hungry, and smart in his book, The Ideal Team Player. And I really go back to that. And the 3 components mean that you are humble, that you are coachable, that you listen, you take feedback, right? And I think that you either have this or you don't. Like, I don't think you can create humility unless you've been, you know, sometimes you've been knocked down a few times. I mean, you know, you get more humble.
Sure.
Right.
But I think that's either inherent and probably something your parents taught you. Hunger, like, do you have that drive inside of you to win? I want people on my team who want to win. Not at all costs, obviously, like not ever betraying integrity or ethics or anything like that. But I want there to be that internal fire that goes the extra mile, that stays late if something comes up, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I don't think you can give that to somebody. I think that's either in there or it's not. And then the smart, it's not talking about intelligence, but really emotional intelligence. And do you know how to read the room? Do you know how to like pick up on what's going on around you and how you should respond to that? that I think one is more coachable, because I think you can, again, you have to have some innate gifting in it, but I think you can learn those things. When I started Forge, I really was originally, after I had a couple years in, it was like I really wanted somebody who was an experienced recruiter, and I really looked for that. But then what I realized is that like we do recruiting so differently that it was harder for people to adjust to our way of doing it. And what I really needed to do is look for people who matched our core values, because I can teach recruiting. I can't teach those as easily, those core values of hungry, humble, and smart. You know, do they have what it takes to continue to really do the best for our clients that we're looking for? And I'm sure you guys, I mean, I'd be curious if you guys have the same situation when you're looking for talent too.
Well, I think certainly everyone who's looking for talent wants someone who can bring something to the table and assimilate to what's going on in the company. I think that is part of the emotional intelligence that you're talking about, reading the room, figuring out what's best. And then it's great that you're in a position to help people do that and connect them. You know, what are you talked about your favorite strategies for passive candidate recruitment. I wonder, when you are reaching out to someone and they aren't happy necessarily, they're fine, but they're not necessarily happy. Those things, what are kind of the top 3 things that you think people are looking for? Is it the work-life balance? Is it more money? What is it? What
money?
Is it
Who wants money, you know?
For a lot of people, though, it's secondary to,
you
know, especially if you're in those life situations where you've got the small children, the aging parents. I hear you. I hear you. But it's people prioritize things differently, particularly after the pandemic. We talked about that for a minute, where you know, people just want different things. They like being home. They like working at home. It's the flexibility is worth more to them than an extra however many dollars.
Right. What I think that I found is that if the compensation is competitive, so not the top of the market, but not the bottom of the market, like it needs to be fair, right? So if the compensation is fair and equitable, then really people will give on a whole lot of other things to maintain flexibility. And I think, to your point, like I think we did learn that life is short, you know, and there are elements where you know, we want to be present with those that we love, and we want to be able to travel, and we want to be able to do these things. Now, the work still has to get done. And I think we talked about that in the session this morning, is like, you know, I think sometimes we sacrifice, we say it's, not about remote worker. But really it's about managers not wanting to have hard conversations with their employees. Because to me, if you're not doing the work, you're not doing the work. Like that's a separate conversation. That has nothing to do with whether you're doing the work from home or from, you know, your bedroom or from your office, you know.
Exactly.
But like as managers, I think like we have to have the conversations around the quality of the output and the work more than we're focused on like, where are you working? Now, there is the element that you have to like also you build relationships in person. Like you know, you and I sitting here talking, like that builds more of a relationship than us doing it on a Zoom. So the truth is in the middle, as always. But I do think that what I see people really prioritizing is, it doesn't have to be 100% remote, but it needs to be flexible. Like, and I think that flexibility, that I trust you, that you're an adult, that you're going to get your work done because you care. To me, that's about hiring the right people, you know, like, and then compensation, obviously, especially with the price of eggs, you know, I mean, it's like we need to pay for our eggs, you know, that's an important piece of it. And then really, I think just the element of, is it a good team to work with? Like, you know, you don't want to work with jerks. Like you want to know that your life has meaning and that you know, what you're doing contributes to a greater cause. And, you know, that's what I tell people on my team is like, we get to be part of like matching people up with the right job. And that is meaningful work. And same thing with you guys. You're helping them navigate difficult situations where, like Sarah on your team, I worked with her before, and every time I call her, I'm stressed, you know? So it's like, you're not in a happy place when you have to call your attorney.
Right.
But I think there's that element of trust, the same thing. And so you're doing meaningful, impactful work. And I think when candidates and employees feel that, you know, it really matters.
And particularly with your area of business, the work that you're doing is life-changing work. It truly is. When you get right down to it, that's what it is.
But every role is really, you know what I mean? I think like, and that's what I talk with the team about. It can be a payroll job. And like, if you mess up somebody's payroll, they are not happy. And that could be the difference in them being able to pay their bills. Like, so I think like our job as leaders is to, how do we find the meaning in every person's role within the team and make sure they know that, you know, so that they don't, like, no job is unimportant really, you know?
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Clearly, I'm passionate about it.
You are. You are.
As you should.
That's right. I love that. Well, thank you for being with us
Yes,
today,
thank
Rhiannon,
you.
and great job with everything you're doing at Forge
Thank
Search.
you.
Wish you the best of luck with that. Thank you for being with me today,
Thank
Faye.
you.
And we will see you next time on Work This Way.